out of the water, and I'm hoping we've just got here. We took a while to get into position in order to be able to get this frontal view of him. We usually park the vehicles on the side of the dam where he's lying. It is one of our kind of areas that we can easily get access to. And I'm guessing he may well open his mouth in order to help thermoregulate as he does bask in the sun. It is fairly common behavior for them, and as VM pans out, you've got an idea of where we are at Buffalo's Hook Dam. We are on the side of the dam where we were looking across at Quarantine just a few days ago when he was looking at the Inyala that we're drinking. And we were parked basically where that crocodile is now when we were viewing Quarantine. Now, other than the croc, there's one or two buffalo bulls here. There's tracks of elephants that have come past here since I was here this morning. But no sign of any elephants on the way in this afternoon, which is interesting because this morning there were so many in this area, not at the dam itself, but in the surrounding areas. So I was hoping to find some here. Having said that though, the vegetation in this area is very thick, and they could well be close by. And I think if we do invest some time here this afternoon, we are almost certain to get some elephants coming to drink. We've just got an interesting comment from Inga in the Netherlands. Good afternoon, Inga, and thanks so much for sending through this information. Inga said she remembers seeing a crocodile a few years ago on a previous WildEarth broadcast that was missing the end of its tail. Now, that's a very good characteristic that we could look for, but sadly, we do not have a good angle to see the end of its tail here, but it is something that we certainly can keep an eye on, and that way potentially know if it is the same crocodile. So thanks so much for sending that info through, Inga. Question from Donna on Twitter. Good afternoon, Donna. Donna's interested to know how big this crocodile is. Now, I'm just under 6 foot in height, and if I were to lie next to it, I think it would be longer than me. So I'm guessing it's around 8 or 9 feet in length. In terms of weight, I'd guess it's around 300 pounds, give or take, and that's just a guesstimate. They do get far larger than this, crocodiles, in various areas of Africa, and even here in the Sabi Sands I have seen crocodiles considerably larger than this. Some up to 20 feet plus, so you get some mammoth crocodiles out there in different parts of Africa, but not so much here. I consider this to be a beautiful big croc there, and so fortunate and happy that he's decided to come and reside here in Buffalo's Hook, and I hope he decides to spend the whole winter here, because I'm sure if we spend enough time here we will get to witness some incredible interaction and viewing from this crocodile. Especially as the water does dry up and there's more intensity and pressure put on the water hole, it will add a very interesting dynamic to what goes on here. We've just got another interesting message through from Teresa, and Teresa's provided us with some information saying that there was also a crocodile with a chunk of its tail missing that was filmed on the Idubi water cam. Now, Idubi is a camp in the southern Sabi Sands, and it's a long way off from here. That's not to say that it's not possible that this crocodile has not made the journey. There are many stop-off points where it could move from waterhole to waterhole. It would have had to cross the Sand River in order to get here, and would have been able to reside there for some time if it desired to. So it could well have travelled that far, and I simply don't know enough about the habits of crocodiles in this area to be able to confirm whether such journeys have been made. But we'll certainly keep an eye out, and thankfully with the footage that would have been archived from that waterhole cam, I'm sure we'd be able to accurately identify if we do get the right angle on this specific individual's tail. But already interesting, I wonder if Inga's crocodile with a chunk missing out of its tail has the same chunk missing as Teresa's crocodile, because maybe we've got two crocodiles with chunks out of their tail, which already indicates that it could be a difficult characteristic to use if they're all missing chunks of their tail, unless it's a very specific part, of course. Now that the sun has just peeked out over the cloud, it's going to be very interesting to see what it does. I don't think it is quite hot enough for it to be opening its mouth in order to cool down, but let's see if the sun shining on it has any impact on its behavior. We've just got a question through from Larry. And afternoon, Larry. Larry's interested to know what are the differences between the Nile crocodile, which is what we are viewing now, and American alligators. So the differences that I know of is that the fourth canine on the upper mandible of a Nile crocodile protrudes out the side of its mouth, so you'd be able to visibly see it. If we could zoom in any closer, we would see the fourth mandible canine pointing out of the side of the crocodile's mouth, kind of to the side of its bottom jaw, whereas with alligators that's not the case. Oh, there he's doing it. Or was that just a yawn? No, it's time to thermoregulate because he's getting a little bit too hot, and so lucky that he has started to do this. Now, I'm looking on my monitor and it's difficult to tell, but there is a difference in their dental structures basically, the Nile crocodile and the alligator, Larry, and the head of an alligator is also more kind of, not robust, but stout and more bulky, whereas the Nile crocodile's head's a little bit thinner and less bulky than that of an alligator. So they do appear quite differently. If you were to have them lying next to one another, they'd be clearly different. Other than that, I'm not too sure of many other differences, Larry, so that's all I've got for you. What I can tell all of you, though, is I certainly wouldn't want to end up in between those jaws. Judy in California, good afternoon. Judy's asked a very relevant question, especially now that he's got his mouth wide open, and she's interested to know, how often do crocodiles need to eat? Now, there's a lot of variables relating to that. A lot would depend on where that crocodile lives. For example, in areas where the dry season can be very intense, crocodiles will estivate, which is basically they go into dormant physical states, and often they'll move into caves that they've excavated and actually lie on top of one another, and they turn their body off basically in order to reserve energy, and they go into a very, very deep sleep for up to 6 months until the next rains come. When those rains do come, there's a bounty of food, from fish to animals coming down to drink at the waterholes. So they cash in on a lot of feeding in a short period of time, and then don't need to feed for 6 months. Here in the Sabi Sands, it's probably a little bit different. It's still warm enough for them in winter to be able to hunt, but they will certainly be more active in the summer. So it's fair to say that crocodiles will consume more in the hotter months of the year than the colder months. How much they consume a lot will depend on how lucky they are. This guy the other day we saw eating 3 small terrapins within the space of 15 minutes. But if, for example, he managed to take down a bigger prey like an impala, then that would fill its belly for a long time, and like a lot of the other reptiles, they can then go and relax and digest that food for weeks and weeks or months and months, depending on how big the kill is. So there's lots of variables, but they can go for months without food, Judy. So, as I was saying for the differences for Larry's question, I think Nikki's just said somebody sent some more info through, and it'll help explain. I wasn't terming it correctly. And the alligator's head is more bulky and broad, was a better word to use, and also more kind of triangular in shape. More of an equilateral triangle, you could say, whereas this is a very acute triangle, that of the Nile crocodile. So the alligator's head is far bigger and broader, even up until the snout. Just got a question through from Diane. Good afternoon, Diane. And Diane's interested to know whether this croc would ever have a go at any one of these big buffalo. And this croc's not big enough to take down one of these big buffalo bulls, but I'm sure larger crocodiles would potentially try and take down fully grown buffalo. And I have seen crocodiles attacking baby buffalo here in the Sabi Sands. It was quite interesting. The crocodile actually caught onto a medium-sized buffalo calf, and the calf started letting off its loud bellowing call, which they do when they are in distress. And there was a male lion nearby that ran in to hear what the commotion was about, and then there was a tug of war between the male lion and this big crocodile for this poor buffalo calf. So they will certainly hunt buffalo, but not fully grown ones, and they would therefore need a herd of buffalo to pass through this area, and they'd be able to target one of the smaller individuals. But it is interesting. Nikki's just reminded me that when myself and her came out here the other day between drives to have a look at the crocodile for the first time, there was a buffalo that was very, very cautious of the crocodile and was staying quite well away from the water's edge. And maybe it's because that buffalo was used to being at this dam but not used to seeing the crocodile. But they will certainly have a healthy respect for the crocodile, even though I think it's simply not big enough to be able to overpower one of these big guys. So that's something to look forward to, and hopefully either Mark or myself are in a good spot at some stage. And Nikki's just saying that you did have some beautiful shots of the clouds and that western horizon a bit earlier with Mark and Romeo on camera. So that's good news. Now, what should we do? I don't think this crocodile is going to get up to too much. Well, I mean, it could at any given moment, and as I say that, it's just opened its mouth again. So let's have one last look at those teeth and its mouth. And see what it does next. What are your plans, mister? I would love to see what happened if a pride of lion came down to drink. What would happen between them? It would certainly be make for some great viewing, and hopefully it won't be long until the Kuhuma pride of lion come back to this dam. They often do pass by here to drink. I personally haven't seen them here drinking yet, but we've often followed their tracks of them passing through here. And hopefully in one of these coming days they're going to come back onto the property. And they are hanging out just to the north of us, so we are aware of their movements, and all 8 of them are together to the north of us. Grace has just asked whether there's any animals that will prey on crocodiles, and yes, Grace, there certainly are, especially when they are newly hatched. From birds to monitor lizards to lions, leopards, all predators will feed on baby crocodiles when they get the opportunity to, and the success rate of young crocodiles is very low. It would be interesting to know how many siblings this individual had and how many of them have made it to this stage. Probably very, very few. And like I say, it's in their first few weeks and months of life that you'll probably find most of them don't make it, because they are small and therefore vulnerable. And the smaller you are, the more predators can feed on you generally, and you seldom find a predator that rejects a meal because it's too small. Any meal that's easy, big or small, will be considered a lucky meal. So that puts baby crocodiles high up on the menus of lots of predators. Well, I think we're going to reposition, and we can cut across to Mark and see what he's been up to. I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve for you. So let's go over to Mark, and we'll try and reposition and see what else we can find at the dam here.